gets a crowd going or whatever. But for the most part, he's very cool and calm.
Yeah, you know who he really connects with are the Wall Street bankers.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
He gets
some
standing
yelling.
O's like
Huge with
every time on Wall Street. They love that dude.
Well, he knows their language, having grown up in the black church,
Well, but it is true that he is very, and that's why like Elizabeth Warren's critique on the Congress was so strong, because he has appointed so many people from Citigroup, and there is a legitimate critique that like he is connected, and he signed the bill that reversed the credit default swaps if they kept that in there till the end. I'm not sure, but you know what I mean. Like he's in there. That's why it's always been an unfair critique when people say he's this crazy liberal, because in fact he's a mainstream candidate.
Yeah. And then I learned this after the fact. A quick anecdote about Jim and I. We went out in 2008 and 2012, and we knocked on hundreds of doors in Las Vegas to get Obama elected.
And I did the same. I went to Vegas the weekend before the 2008 election. And knocked on doors.
We might have been.
We probably were there because we went like the last couple of months.
That's when I was phone banking for Ralph Nader in 2008.
There we go.
And in 2012. I donated money to, he was a former governor of Salt Lake City, I forget it, Rocky Anderson. Was my candidate in 2012. But I dropped out of the Democratic Party in 2000. Like, I was a big Bill Clinton fan. I phone banged for him when I was in college and, knocked on doors because I live in Pennsylvania. It was like a battleground state. I grew up in California where it's, who's going to win every time here, right?
Yeah.
But, went there and got involved in the political process that way. But, in 2000, when Al Gore picked Joe Lieberman, I was done, 100% with the Democratic Party. I'm like, that's it, I'm done, I'm out, I can't take anymore.
Yeah, I mean, we live in California, so it doesn't matter. But I voted for Nader that year. But it was California, so I didn't cost us the election. It's the people in Florida that voted for Nader.
Well, you know who cost Al Gore that election? Al Gore cost Al Gore that election by being a terrible candidate who didn't know how to run a campaign. He blew it. He should. I mean, in fact, he won the election. Let's not pretend like he didn't win the election. Right. We all know he got the most votes in the states. He had the most electoral votes, but when it went to court, they decided against him.
He did deserve the Nobel Prize, though.
He does, yeah.
But all right.
Okay, so here's what I was going to say about Obama that I just discovered recently.
Except it hurt the cause of global warming because all the conservatives
people hate him so much,
latch onto that. But go ahead.
Is that when he was before he had presidential aspirations, when he was in the Senate, there was a bill that would allow banks and large corporations to avoid class action lawsuits. So the bill passed, and all the big banks were lobbying for the bill to pass, and you had Democrats, like even Hillary Clinton voted against this. Obama was one of the Democrats that voted for it to pass it. So if you look back, it demonstrates. If you look at his track record and what he voted for and what he stood for, he was basically a supporter of Wall Street banks from the time he got in the Senate.
Well, you say before he had presidential aspirations. I don't think that was before that. I think he had presidential aspirations at the time.
Oh I'm sure. Yeah, because
from the time he won his first election, I think this guy had presidential aspirations.
Right, and he really came on the scene when he did the keynote speech at the Democratic National Convention.
Right.
Yeah. And so the theory is that the banks vetted him prior to him running, and they knew that the housing market was going to melt down, and most of it was because of bad loans that were given to minorities. And the thought is that with a black president, even though that the housing crisis affected disproportionately minorities, blacks and Hispanics, that it would be easier and less troublesome for a black president to navigate through that because they. But anyway, I think there's something to that. But the fact is, he's been in Wall Street's back pocket from day one, and that hasn't changed. He hasn't held any of the banks accountable, to my knowledge.
Not at all.
And I'll say this, which is that Russell Tice, who is kind of like an Edward Snowden before Snowden was cool, he's one of the NSA whistleblowers who came out in the last 5 to 8 years. He said that he saw across his desk when he worked at the NSA, bugs for Obama and everyone in his circle. some NSA just smashed something.
Holy shit! The guy next door.
Actually, the NSA are probably the primary listeners to our show.
Yeah. We've got this. Hey,
we're all on a
hello,
list
NSA.
now. You can't fly anymore. Sorry,
Al and Fred.
But but he's. I mean, this dude's out there. He's talked. He's been. He's been interviewed by legitimate sources like your PBS NewsHour type situations. But I mean, he said, in addition to like members of Congress, the Intelligence Committee, lawyers, generals, that he also saw wiretaps for specifically Obama's circle. So if they didn't have Obama in their pocket in 2004 when that happened, like, I mean, they might have gleaned some sort of blackmail. And that's the scary thing about the NSA, is that we're opening ourselves up to like a police state where where there's this old style J. Edgar Hoover FBI blackmail situation where they're gathering intel on you, and then whenever they need to apply pressure on you, they do that, and that just seems so wholly un-American.
Yeah, exactly, and it's happening on Obama's watch, right?
Yeah.
Well, and he should be doing more. You know what I mean, he's doing something, but it's really not enough. It's not tangible enoh.
One thing Dennis Kucinich proposed 3 times while he was in Congress was dismantling CIA entirely, just getting rid of it. As it was a Cold War relic, and we don't really use it in the way that it was intended to be used at the time. Now it's doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and you saw what it's done in the 80s. Now all that stuff has really fully come out about funneling money to the Contras and Nicaragua and regime changes and all these things that are totally against U.S. law, against international law.
Now we're spreading democracy.
Yeah, when are we actually going to be for democracy?
Yeah. Well,
we take it kind of a roundaw way. We spread democracy
how about first
through
we
installing
try democracy
dictators.
here, because we don't really have it. It's our whole system. Well, in my opinion, we should. Like the parliamentary governments in Europe are far more democratic than our government here, especially with proportional representation that they have in a lot of countries there, where people. Here we have an all or nothing type election.
I mean, try to explain gerrymandering to someone from another country. It's like, well, what we do is we arrange these districts so that black people have no power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We split up certain bases.
Yeah.
But it's in California, things have gotten a lot better with the Citizens Commission that now draws congressional districts here, and that's something that I think we definitely need to do nationwide, to where the people who are in office should not have control over who's going to be voting where for their own elections. Like they decide who's going to be doing this stuff, and that's the problem, because like they get into state office and the states decide how they're going to divvy their states up. And
wasn't it gerrymandering that led to, was it Texas was the first time where the Democrats left the state? Was that?
I think it was Texas, where they left the state so they wouldn't have to vote on something, and they were all hanging out like in Oklahoma and
that was probably
Nevada.
the right thing.
Was that Wisconsin or no?
Well, that was
They
later.
happened in Wisconsin,
but it's different.
Wisconsin was but
I don't remember
that was a different
having
vote.
it in
That was
Texas.
the labor vote in Wisconsin.
Right.
By,
There's a lot of walkouts,
and that's where I share the name of a governor's son in Wisconsin,
Oh, yeah?
which I'm not very
Scott
proud
Walker's,
of. Scott Walker's son, Matt Walker.
Oh, so you are a similar.
Yeah, in a boat.
Totally.
How does it work to be the son of a Republican?
Yeah, I'm the son of a Republican governor of Wisconsin.
Oh wow, man, this could be my.
You guys could really, exactly. You guys,
and so you've got that, and then it's rigged because the primary process, only 10% of the people come out and vote, and they're 2 preordained candidates. So you can't get like a third party or an independent candidate in many states that you can actually vote for.
But in other countries, the way they do it, which makes a lot more sense, is they have a parliament where their people, basically based on the overall voting totals, let's say 10% of the people voted for a specific party. That party gets 10% of the seats in their parliament. And then they have to form these broad coalitions where people have to agree on things.
Get things done.
And they get a lot more accomplished. And the way our system works now, it's sort of like, well, I think one of the big problems with Obama's presidency, besides, he's exactly the guy I thought he was going to be. Like, a lot of people were disappointed, saying, oh, he's turned out to be more conservative than I thought. Well, they weren't paying attention, is what happened. But I think one of the big problems is that he ran with so little experience in Washington. And if you look at the presidents since FDR, I mean, that's sort of like a different era of presidencies.
Right.
And the guys that spent a lot of time in Congress before they became president were far more successful at pushing their own agenda than the guys who came in and they were governors of states or they didn't spend a lot of time. Because you look back, the guy who probably got the most done as president LBJ, hands down, that guy knew how to work a system. He knew how to get on the phone. He knew how to twist arms and make stuff happen.
Yeah.
Kennedy was sort of the playboy. Kennedy didn't do anything. He didn't get anything done when he was president. LBJ, when he took
Headline
over...
tomorrow, Kennedy didn't do anything.
He didn't.
Well, when
LBJ took over, he said, I'm going to accomplish what Kennedy couldn't. That was his goal as president.
Well, it's a little bit like... Obama is a little bit like Kennedy in the sense that, it's executive... he's been able to make some symbolic things. Like, even the Cuba thing is executive orders or, we'll see what Congress
he can't work with Congress.
Does. Right.
Yeah.
And even in the first 2 years, he had a supermajority with his party in Congress, supermajority in the Senate, enough of a majority in the House to get anything he wanted passed. And he's like, let's have a big open debate. Let's see what all sides want to do. When what you need to do in that situation is ram every single thing you can through the pipeline.
You got the big
do it while
stick,
you can,
man.
Because 2 years later, all of a sudden, a massive swing in the other direction, and then it was just complete shutdown.
Yep, and when we were done. And coming right out of the gate, inviting Rick Warren, the guy from Saddleback, to do the freaking prayer.
Terrible.
I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And then never, universal health care was never on the table.
Never on the table, not
Big
for 1
giveaway
second.
from the, So anyway, we're rehashing old stuff here, but
You have a supermajority in the Senate. That's what it would, and it's easy to do. I could tell you the plan. If you wanted to have universal health care in this country tomorrow, I can tell you exactly how you do it.
I want to hear this.
Here's you.
Somebody get a pen.
All right.
Get a pen, write this down.
Medicare is the most popular health plan in the country.
How do you spell Medicare?
I think it starts with an
And
M.
it's popular for a reason, right? It's
Because
very
it has-
efficient, low overhead.
It has a 2 to 3% overhead cost.
Yeah.
So almost everything goes back into treating patient care. And it's
What a
run.
concept.
It's a single payer, but it's still operated by for-profit companies in many cases, Blue Cross and Blue Shield, and some nonprofits, Kaiser Permanente, for example, right? And so these companies, they execute, and it works really well. Right now you have to be 65, then you qualify, and everybody's really happy with it. There's some issues with it, don't get me wrong, drug coverage, all that stuff, but fine. That can all be patched up. What you do tomorrow is you say, okay, Medicare, you're an American, you get Medicare. Done. Right there. You have the plans. It's already set up.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Walker just fixed the health care
Now you say,
system.
okay, how are you going to pay for it? All the payroll taxes right now that you're forcing these companies to spend money on their own medical plans, you take that money and you put that into the new Medicare plan. It's already there. The funding is there.
No, but
the plan is there. It's not hard to do.
You know what's going to happen then? Then the corporations are going to be like, that's found money for them.
They'll make more money. They'll save money. That's the thing. Single payer will save businesses money. And that's one reason that Vermont is so disappointing to me this week when they said, oh, we can't do it. It's going to be too costly or whatever. Well, you're going about trying to do it wrong if that's what you're finding because it's worked in every country that does it. Like you look at Canada, the reason all of Canada has single payer healthcare was because one province went out on a limb and said, we're going to have single-payer health care. Then all of the businesses in Canada said, we would save a ton of money by moving our offices to this province. So they started moving there. All of a sudden, within 5 years, all of Canada had single-payer health plans. It was like that. It falls like dominoes.
You mean the health care that Sarah Palin's family drove from Alaska into?
Yes, from Western to Canada. Go take advantage of. Yep.
Yeah.
So, Matt, how long have you been a commie?
Yes, I've been a communist for many years. I watched that Seinfeld episode, and I was convinced by Kramer as Santa Claus about the workers and the means of production.
You watched Lawrence O'Donnell, right? That's his big cause. He pushes a lot the idea of Medicare for all as a solution for healthcare, right?
It's the simplest way to accomplish it.
Yeah.
Because it already
It
exists.
would make too much sense.
If you wanted to phase it in, you could let's drop the age to 55 instead of 65 and see how it goes for a couple of years. And then drop it to 45 and see how it goes. You could stage it in if you need to.
And depending on the situation, you can just drop it like it's hot.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're Snoop Dogg, you can just drop it like it's hot.
I think, all of these, as Randy correctly identified, communist ideas you're proposing.
Yes.
It all starts. That's the problem. It all starts with.
I have been to China. I'll let you know. I have been to communist China.
Oh, fantastic.
So you can do anything
there? Did you do?
I did not perform. It was. I think I'd done stand-up for about a year. When I went to China, I went on vacation when SARS was big.
Oh,
because,
lovely. Yeah.
Well, SARS was
deal,
big,
probably.
right? And I'm like, okay, there's only like a 98% chance of living if I get SARS, so I'll take my chances, And I was like, because I went to China for a week, Beijing, China, airfare, hotel, breakfast every day at the hotel, transportation to and from the airport, and my visa was $670 for a